with the Panthers playing the Cardinals. This game was a really interesting game, actually. Didn't go the way most people thought it was going to go.
Neither of us.
A lot of people kind of thought that Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury were going to come in and show that what they've been kind of hiding from us. It felt like they've been hiding from us. But they really didn't. They came in and showed that they're not a very good team. They lost to a second-string quarterback, throwing 4 touchdowns on them, really exposing their defense, putting up 38 points. That's not a good look. Kyler Murray did not look phenomenal in this game, to be honest with you. If I was a Cardinals fan, I wouldn't be concerned yet to say, because there's been a little bit of signs of things working out, but I'd be starting to get concerned. I'll put it that way. The Panthers, I'd be happy if I were one of their fans. My takeaway for the Panthers is it's starting to look like they're figuring out life without Cam. Putting up 38 points, the Panthers don't do that anymore because of Cam. When he's gone, they do it. That's a really good sign for them, and I'm excited to see what this team can do. I know it was a terrible Cardinals team, but my question for you is this Carolina team legit without Cam? Are they going to be better off?
Absolutely. I think we're to a point where it's kind of sad, but we've hit a point in Cam Newton's career where Kyle Allen is better than him.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cam Newton, especially right now, because he can't run because he's not healthy, maybe a 100% healthy Cam would be better than Kyle Allen. But the reality of the situation is the Panthers have built a really good offense, especially at the skill positions. Their offensive line's a little hit and miss at times, especially at tackle. But, McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Greg Olsen, they got some players out there, and they really just need a guy who can get them the ball and get out of the way. They need a kind of point guard style quarterback. They don't need the score first superstar NBA player we think of today as a wing who's going to drop 30 a game, a James Harden. They just need a vintage Chris Paul. Get 10 assists, get out of there with the win. That's all. That's literally all they need. They have that much talent around them, and Kyle Allen was able to do that. And I think the takeaway for the Panthers is this is Cam's last year in Carolina, because regardless of if they go with Kyle Allen or not, their owner is a baller. He just really is. He's the kind of guy who makes moves. He bought the Panthers for cash, essentially. He basically he didn't have to take out any kind of loan or anything to buy the Panthers. He literally just paid for it which is virtually unheard of just to have $2 billion on hand. He's that kind of guy. And I don't think, no matter what Ron Rivera can say and Panthers management can say, to him, it's just a tough sell to him that Cam is the way to go right now. I think he's going to want to move on and try something new. And frankly, I can't really blame him the way Cam has looked since he bought the team last year, and the way Kyle Allen looked this week. Because you can say, what if Cam is healthy? But the reality of the situation, Cam's over 30 years old. The way he plays is not conducive to being healthy over 30 years old. We may have just passed Cam Newton's prime. That may just be where we are. And it's sad because he was so fun to watch when he was in his prime, and especially in that 15-1 year. But I think, the Panthers are at the very least going to be looking for someone other than Cam Newton to play quarterback for them next year in week 1. It might be Kyle Allen the way he keeps playing, which would be, what a hell of a story that would be, undrafted free agent.
That'd be awesome.
I think quickly before we move on to the next game, because I don't want to spend too much time on Panthers Cardinals. The takeaway for the Cardinals quickly is they're one of the 5 worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Their offense is kind of hidden that because their offense has kept them in games a couple times, but they're one of the 5 worst rosters in the NFL, and it's going to take a while for them to rebuild. Yeah. Kyler is clearly going to be a legitimate solid NFL player, but until for this team to start winning some games, they're going to need to start hitting some draft picks because they're just not good enough right now.
Yeah, I'd like to see Kyler put a game together before we talk about him, to be honest, because still don't know how to feel about him. That's the crazy part.
He looked really good in Baltimore. He was more than good enough to win that game. The reality is there's just not that much talent around him.
Fair. Going on to the next game, we had what turned out to be a really good game, a nail biter actually. The New York Giants versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
The story of this game was quarterback. Daniel. I blanked on his name. That was super embarrassing. Daniel Jones.
Danny Dimes.
Having start. Danny Dimes. Having his first start. And I think that all of New York is excited about. He had a great game, rushed for a touchdown, had a couple passes for touchdowns. I'm pretty sure how many passes for touchdowns? 3?
And he ran for at least 2.
And or two passes,
20
runs or something like that.
Ready for this line?
Mm-hmm.
How about this for a rookie debut? 23 of 36, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and then 4 carries for 28 yards, 2 touchdowns. How you do? That's quite a debut. And then also throw in Saquon Barkley did not play in the final 3 quarters.
Yeah, I was just about to get there.
That's an A+ debut of A+ debuts. The guy looked as good as you could ask for in a rookie debut.
Yeah, and getting to the Saquon Barkley being out for a couple of weeks here now with his ankle injury, I think that really does hurt. But I think it gives a lot of the guys on the Giants a good amount of time to get used to Daniel Jones here. I think it benefits them a lot in the future, getting more reps this season.
Yeah.
Without Saquon Barkley, they may not win as many games. That's not as big of a deal. That just means they get a better draft pick at the end of the day. But yeah, Danny Dimes shows that he can lead a team to a win. Mediocre, but they are good. Getting to the Bucs, there's not much to talk about. I think it's the end. The only thing is the end of Jameis Winston's career. Almost. Hate to say to watch, but what are your thoughts on the game?
I don't have too much to say about the Giants other than what you said. I mean, Daniel Jones is an A+ debut. We'll see what he looks like without Saquon, but just going to give a whole fan base and a whole organization hope, which is pretty exciting. And what you want out of your rookie quarterback. The thing with Tampa, I'm not ready to give up on Jameis. Jameis was actually really good in this game. They finally figured out how to get Mike Evans the ball. I don't know why it took 3 games because he might be the best receiver in the league. He's one of the guys in the top 5. Like, it doesn't really matter who you have. He's freaking sweet either way. Like, he's in that threshold where it really doesn't matter who you have. And yeah, I mean, the guy is unbelievable. I think Bruce and Jameis are starting to figure it out based on how he looked against Carolina and then in this game. The reality is, I mean, Tampa's defense was horrendous in this game. They went back to what they were last year, which is the concern if you're a Bucs fan, because the Bucs defense looked outstanding in the first 2 weeks, and that was what we were holding the hats on of why we were picking the Bucs in this game, because we both had the Bucs -6, just because the Bucs defense looked like it was a top half of the league defense, which was just such an improvement after the year before. But I mean, man, they didn't show up this week. I mean, I don't know what more to say about the Bucs. Jameis, I think has a chance still. We talked about Mariota. Mariota's done, and I think Cam is done. I don't think he's quite somehow in the completely done with their team area. He's getting there. He's really close, but I'm not quite ready to wrap it up because they could easily go out and win their next 2 or 3 games, and then all of a sudden everyone's talking about how Bruce revived Jameis. But if it's not now, it's got to be really, really soon if Jameis is going to be the long-term answer or even the short-term answer in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Uh, yeah, I think Jameis Winston could be good still. I think it's still a prove it year. It'll be interesting to see how it develops and
It's
how
not.
the rest of the team shows up.
I don't even
So,
know if you can call it a prove it year. I think it's like a prove it month at this point with him.
yeah, exactly.
Just with all the disasters off the field, he's got like a month here to show what he
Yeah.
can do.
Next game was the Texans versus the Chargers. This was a pretty good game. I was quite excited for it, to be honest. It kind of lived up to my expectations. I wasn't too surprised with the Texans winning by a touchdown. Kind of what I expected, to be honest. I think all I really took away was Deshaun Watson's what I thought he was. Houston's defense isn't great, but they can hang in there. And the Chargers aren't as good as they were last year. Uh, Early season injuries are really going to hurt them in the long run, I think. And Philip Rivers is getting older, digressing a little bit, and yeah, I think Deshaun Watson's next up. He's so exciting. I've been saying this for weeks, and yeah, he kind of proved it this week how good he was. So, what were your thoughts on the game?
I had two really big takeaways from this game. My first takeaway is, and I think maybe the most important takeaway, because the other one is just kind of an inevitability of what's going on in that team, and we'll get to that in a second. But kind of building off you and Houston, we know Deshaun is a star. He's my favorite player to watch in the NFL that doesn't play for my favorite team. He's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hopkins might be second, like the two of them together, just so special. But
Yeah.
the big takeaway from this game, because I think we all knew Deshaun was a star at this point, was their offensive line held up against one of the best tandem pass rushes in the NFL and against one of the most creative defensive coordinators when it comes to blitzing and Gus Bradley. I mean, Deshaun was clean for, 95% of this game. He had finally had time to throw, and I think we saw what happens when he does. It's just really hard to stop. And Tunzel kind of justified the trade. I think we saw he's finally. It was pretty unrealistic.
Yeah.
It was really unrealistic to question Tunzel through two games. I mean, the guy just gets thrown into a system, and the offensive line, maybe more so than actually, absolutely more so than any other unit on a team, relies on chemistry and consistency playing together.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people were criticizing him for how he was playing, it was almost like just exposing them for not knowing what they were talking about, frankly.
Yeah.
And he just looked really good. Titus Howard, they had him at guard, their first round pick this year. They had him at guard for a majority of the first two games, and they finally shifted him out to tackle, and he looked really good against Bosa and Ingram. And yeah, I don't know what more to say other than the Texans may actually have an offensive line, which is definitely exciting for us
Yeah,
fans.
we haven't seen that with Deshaun yet, so that's really exciting.
But and then my quick takeaway for the Chargers, I think we don't need to talk about them much because we already covered them. We're talking about the Eagles instead. The Chargers are the Eagles NFC AFC in that they're really good teams who have ironically both lost to Detroit. But the reason that they are similar is not that they've lost to Detroit, but that they're 1-2, and a large part of why they're 1-2, at least for what we think now, maybe that'll change when we start to get towards the end of the season and we're just wrong on them. But I think right now injuries are just killing both these teams. I mean, the Chargers don't have a left tackle right now. They lost Derwin James. They lost Hunter Henry. And I know Eckler and Jackson have been really good, but the reality is this team was supposed to have Melvin Gordon, and it just takes another layer of depth away from them. And until they get all those guys back, I think it's really hard to judge them. But similarly to the Eagles, will they get enough of those guys back that their roster will be able to withstand the record that they may have at that point? Because
that's a good assessment, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what more we can say about this game. It was a really good game. It was a really fun game to watch. The Chargers are right there. They're right there. You can see that the injuries are just, and the lack of depth is just killing them. But I think talent will eventually end up evening out when they start to get healthy eventually.
Yeah, I think so as well. Next game, 49ers versus Steelers. I was surprised with how close this game was. I thought the Steelers were kind of a bum team at this point without Ben Roethlisberger. But, I mean, it was a close game. It came down to a fourth quarter game-winning touchdown from Jimmy G. I think San Francisco fans are really happy to see that. Showed that he can play in a tight game, win the game. My takeaway is San Francisco is going to be a good team this year.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
Pittsburgh, it's a bummer. Ben Roethlisberger goes out. They look a bit better now, to be honest. What's his name? Josh Dobbs is their quarterback, right?
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph, right? And he looked good. Not too much to say about Pittsburgh. Their season is kind of over at this point, but I mean, the 49ers look good. I think they're the talking point of this game. Do you think that the 49ers are a playoff team?
No. And that I think they would be in the AFC.
Yeah.
But I think the NFC, there's just too many good. I mean, in their division, I think they're the third best team, regardless of record. I think Seattle's better than them. And I don't think they're better than the Eagles or Cowboys. So that's a playoff. That's a playoff team. And then nobody's lost a game outside the division in the NFC North. So there's just a lot of really good teams. And I also think Atlanta's eventually going to figure it out. They just have too much talent. So at the end of the day, I think if you're a Niners fan, this team's going to win somewhere between 7 and 9 games, which after the last couple of years is a huge step up. And the reason they're going to win only 7 to 9 and not make the playoffs is because Jimmy keeps making stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
And when they play a team that has an actual quarterback, because the Steelers, I mean, the takeaway from this game, I don't even have, it takes one sentence. That trade might be the worst trade in recent memory in the NFL. Like, I don't know what the Steelers are doing there, giving up a potential top 5 pick. The way that it looks like the season's going to unfold for them, I have nothing more to say than that was an idiotic move from a franchise that bet way too much on their culture and not enough on their talent, and just being realistic with the situation. I mean, you always want to get a good player like Minka Fitzpatrick, but like,
he balled out too.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of showed that this could very easily be a top 10 pick, and I don't know what you're doing there, especially when you're a Pittsburgh team that can always use young players. Their defense finally looked good, but like, honestly, the Niners tried their best to lose this game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's why the Niners aren't going to make the playoffs. They're going to be improved, and I think next year is their year where they take the step towards a legitimate playoff team. But this year, they're just going to be a relevant 7 to 9 win team. And that's really all I'm going to say on the Niners. They're way better than they were last year. And we talked about the Bills and franchises and fan bases that deserve a good team after what they've had to go through recently. Add the Niners to the list and the Lions. Oh my God, and the Lions.
Yeah, Lions are on that list.
Franchises that
10 times over.
Franchises that are deserving.
Yeah.
I don't really have more to say about this game, honestly.
Yep, me too.